I took my wife and son to participate in a parent-child reality show. During the program, the host turned to my 5-year-old son with a smile. "Luca, who do you like more, your mom or your dad?" His answer made me secretly pleased. "I like Daddy." But my joy was short-lived. When it came time to take the family portrait, Luca suddenly pushed me away. Pointing toward the audience, he cried out, his little voice trembling with emotion. "You're not my dad. My dad hasn't come on stage yet." As the show neared its end, Luca's words had left the entire set in an awkward silence. Anna grabbed him by the arm, her brows tightly furrowed. "Luca, are you still mad at Daddy? He'll spend more time with you once work isn't so busy, okay?" She crouched down, gripping Luca's shoulders as if trying to anchor him in place. Her gaze flickered anxiously toward the audience, as if searching for something, or someone. Luca quickly stopped crying. The host made a light-hearted joke to ease the tension, and the filming continued. During the final family photo session, I ran my hand through Luca's hair, forcing a smile for the camera. But inside, my stomach was in knots. With the corner of my eye, I scanned the audience. And then, I saw him. Henry. The man Anna had once loved so desperately. The man who had abandoned her 5 years ago, vanishing overseas without a trace. It was only after he disappeared that Anna, who had always kept her distance from me, finally accepted my pursuit. Less than a week later, we were married. I had always known she might not love me as much as I loved her. But even the coldest stone can be warmed over time, can't it? When Luca was born, I finally let go of my doubts. But now, after all these years, Henry hadn't just returned, he had come to this very show. As a featured guest, I couldn't afford to lose my temper on set. So I swallowed my emotions, finished the recording with a calm facade, and made an excuse to leave alone. I drove straight to the hospital. Holding a few strands of hair in my hand, I could only pray in my heart. "Anna, you better not have lied to me about this." I was invited to attend an award ceremony on the day the results came out. Henry's name was prominently listed among the nominees. His latest film, for which he was the director, had Anna as the leading actress. As a minor actress in the entertainment industry, Anna would never have landed a lead role without my support. Back when I pursued her, I spared no effort to help her rise. Yet, she never appreciated it and even told me outright not to interfere in her life. After Henry went abroad, however, Anna's attitude toward me took a complete 180-degree turn. Not only did she become gentle and considerate, but she also publicly declared on screen that I was her official boyfriend. At first, netizens mocked her, saying she was merely riding the wave for attention. But Anna never backed down. Instead, she fully committed to playing the role of a devoted lover. After giving birth to Luca, Anna suffered from severe postpartum depression. Her attitude toward me returned to how it was in the past. Only when appearing in public did she make an effort to maintain her persona as a loving wife. I never blamed her for it. After all, she had nearly lost her life giving birth. Whatever kindness I showed her, I believed was my duty. During the intermission, I sat alone in the dressing room, my hands trembling as I opened the test results from the hospital. The report confirmed that Luca and I shared no biological relationship. My world collapsed. For years, Luca had been my everything. I had cherished him beyond measure, only to realize now. The son I had raised for 5 years wasn't mine. Fueled by rage, my mind quickly pieced together the events from that reality show. If Luca knew who his real father was, it could only mean one thing. Anna and Henry had never truly cut ties. After the ceremony ended, I left the venue in a daze. Tonight, I had promised to take Luca out. But how could I possibly be in the mood for that now? Had I not forced myself to stay rational, I would have already stormed onto the stage and beaten Henry to a pulp. In a private booth at the bar, I was drowning my sorrows in alcohol when my phone buzzed with a message from Anna. "Where are you? Didn't you promise to take Luca to the amusement park to watch the fireworks tonight?" I was already tipsy, my fingers fumbling over the phone screen as I typed a careless reply. Something came up. "We'll go another day." Anna responded almost immediately. "Suit yourself. I'll take Luca myself. Not like you care about him anyway." I put my phone down and emptied the glass in one gulp. Tears welled up in my eyes without warning. Anna didn't send any more messages, not even a single call. In the past, I would have worried that she was upset and gone out of my way to comfort her. But now that I knew the truth, I understood her all too well. She was merely putting on an act. Even Luca knew who his real father was. It seemed I was the only fool in the world who had been deceived. An hour later, I absent-mindedly scrolled through my phone. Anna had updated her social media with a new post. A picture of her and Luca at the amusement park, both beaming with joy. No matter what, Luca wasn't just some child to me. After all these years, how could I sever my feelings so easily? It was true, I had always been busy with work. I had hardly been there for him, an absentee father for most of his life. I carried a deep sense of guilt toward Luca. But then, I noticed something off about the photo. In the reflection of the background, I could make out the figure of a man taking their picture. Yet I distinctly remembered, Anna's assistant was a woman. A wave of nausea surged in my stomach, churning like a storm. Like a madman, I frantically dialed Anna on video call. It took several attempts before she finally answered. "What do you want? Since you're so busy with work, why don't you just focus on that instead of bothering us?" Anna frowned, bringing the camera so close to her face that I couldn't see Luca anywhere. "Where's Luca? Let me talk to him." I shouted at her, my voice laced with authority. She rolled her eyes and snapped back. "What does it matter to you? Luca doesn't want to see you right now. He's having a great time on his own." With that, she was about to hang up. But perhaps by accident, she tapped the screen, flipping the camera. And there, clear as day, was Henry, holding Luca in his arms. The two were laughing, playing together like they were a real father and son. When Henry realized he was on camera, he didn't look the least bit guilty. In fact, he smirked and greeted me as if nothing was wrong. Beside him, Luca clung tightly to his leg, his little voice sweet and affectionate. "Daddy, I want to go up again. Lift me higher." My body went cold. I couldn't stop shaking. "George, I happened to be driving this way, so I gave Anna and Luca a ride. You don't mind, do you?" Henry's lips curled upward slightly, his voice laced with provocation. He was Anna's ex, yet he made no effort to avoid suspicion. I ignored him completely and turned to Anna, my voice sharp. "Anna, didn't I arrange for an assistant to be with you? Was it really necessary to have another man bring you here?" I demanded that she take Luca home immediately. Perhaps my tone was too harsh. Luca suddenly burst into tears. "I want to stay with my good daddy. I don't want to go home." He cried so hard his tiny shoulders trembled, his voice piercing through the phone. "I hate you. You're a bad daddy." Anna seized the moment to throw her own jab. "You never cared about Luca before, but now you want to act like a father? Do you even deserve that title?" I was silent for a moment before letting out a soft, bitter chuckle. "Oh? So you mean Henry is his father? Well, enjoy your little family, I won't disturb you." And with that, I hung up. After calming down, I typed out a message and sent it to Anna. "I'll have the lawyers draft the divorce agreement and send it over. That's it." Not only was her heart never truly mine, but even the child I raised wasn't mine. Any feelings I had left for her had just been wiped out completely. I admit, I once loved her to the bone, worshipped her even. But that was because I thought she had suffered to bring our child into the world. I cherished her, felt guilty for everything she endured. Little did I know, she had deliberately sought me out just to dump another man's mess onto me. She used my best resources, my love, and my money to raise the child she and Henry had together. Anna wasn't stupid. She might have been spoiled by my love, but she knew one thing very well: without my support, she would never secure a foothold in the entertainment industry. Less than a minute later, her calls came flooding in. "George, are you out of your mind? Henry and I are just friends now. Do you really have to be this angry? Divorce? Have you forgotten the promise you made to me?" She wasn't wrong. I had promised to love only her in this lifetime. But that promise was based on love. For her sake, I had attended endless business dinners, shamelessly networking just to get her better opportunities. And what did I get in return? Complete and utter betrayal. She risked her life to give birth to her first love's child. And then, taking advantage of my love, she slowly let Luca recognize Henry as his real father. As if she was deliberately making sure I couldn't possibly remain in the dark any longer. "Yes, I'm angry." My voice was calm, almost mocking. "Since Luca loves his new daddy so much, why don't I just grant you both your wish? That way, he can finally have his real father, and you can go back to the man you truly love. Isn't that perfect? You want a divorce over a few thoughtless words from a child? Are you even a man? I nearly died giving birth to him for you. Do you really have to tear everything apart?" Anna dragged up the past again. Back then, she had suffered a breech birth, and if not for sheer luck, she might not have survived. But so what? She gave birth to another man's child. What did that have to do with me? I let out a cold chuckle and threw out one last sentence before hanging up. When have you ever cared about preserving your own dignity? I blocked Anna's number. That same afternoon, I had my legal team draft the divorce papers and sent them out immediately. But I had underestimated how many tricks Anna had up her sleeve. Since she still needed me, she obviously wouldn't agree to a divorce so easily. She went straight to holding a press conference. Publicly slandering me. Painting me as a heartless scumbag who abandoned his wife and child. Tears streamed down her face as she spoke into the cameras. She sobbed about how she had suffered from postpartum depression, how after giving birth, I, the so-called father, had never once given Luca the love he deserved. Public opinion was vicious. I was still at work when my assistant rushed in, informing me that my name was being dragged through the mud online. If Anna had even a shred of dignity left, she wouldn't have resorted to this. Afterward, I unblocked her number and took the initiative to invite her for a meeting at a cafe. George, so you finally regret it now? Don't expect me to forgive you that easily. Anna sounded smug. By the time I arrived at our agreed location, she was already waiting. The moment I stepped inside, she flung her coffee straight at me. You scumbag. You will never be able to repay what you owe me and my son. My clothes were soaked with coffee stains, but internally, I felt nothing. I scanned the cafe's layout, then glanced outside. I knew she didn't come alone. There were reporters hiding everywhere. I said nothing, simply took a seat and looked at the table. The divorce papers I had sent her earlier lay untouched. She hadn't signed them. She would never sign them. Anna, the one who should be regretting things is you. I picked up the divorce agreement and calmly handed it to her. Then, raising my voice, I looked around the cafe and called out loud. Since you all want a big headline, stop hiding and come out already. Just as I expected, journalists and media personnel immediately stood up one after another. They swarmed in, surrounding both me and Anna in an instant. Anna, momentarily stunned, quickly regained her arrogance and shouted at the top of her lungs. You knew the media was watching, yet you still insist on a divorce? You really want Luca to grow up in a broken home? You're not afraid of being judged? Of ruining your own reputation? The journalists murmured amongst themselves. Then, more people entered the cafe. I turned my head, and to my utter surprise, it was Anna's parents, holding Luca in their arms. George, after all the suffering you put my daughter through, you still have the audacity to bring up divorce? Anna's father's voice trembled with fury, and he lunged toward me, his fists clenched. But my assistant stepped in just in time, blocking his advance. The sudden exertion made him cough violently, nearly choking on his own breath. George, we only have one precious daughter. She stayed with you for 5 years. And look at Luca. How can you be so heartless? Anna's mother held Luca tightly, tears brimming in her eyes. Seeing so many people around, Luca burst into loud sobs. Daddy doesn't want Luca anymore. Daddy doesn't want Luca anymore. His little hands rubbed at his eyes, snot running down his face as he cried. I stared at the child I once cherished beyond words. But now, all I felt toward him was disgust. His acting skills were indeed like mine. What a shame if he didn't become an actor in the future. I slowly stood up and walked toward Luca. Anna's mother, thinking I was wavering, immediately gained confidence. She angled her body, subtly blocking me from getting too close. George, if you're so determined to leave, fine. But the child is mine. You will never see Luca again. Behind her, Anna stood with her arms crossed, smugly adding fuel to the fire. I showed no emotion. I simply cast a cold glance at Luca. The camera zoomed in, the media hungry to capture any flicker of hesitation on my face. I bent down slightly and smiled at Luca. Luca, tell me, do you like your director daddy more or your actor daddy? The room fell into a tense silence. I could feel Anna's searing gaze locked onto me. She wanted to stop me, but it was already too late. Luca sniffled, blinking away his tears. Then, his face lit up with a smile. I like director daddy. He plays with me and takes me to see fireworks. And then, as if to twist the knife even deeper, Luca cheerfully added. Mommy likes him more too. For a moment, the entire room fell silent. Anna's mother immediately covered Luca's mouth, her face a mixture of shock and panic. From her expression, it was clear, even Anna's parents hadn't known the truth about Luca's parentage. The reporters wouldn't let a bombshell like this slip by. Like sharks smelling blood, they swarmed forward, eager to shove their microphones into a child's mouth. "Little boy, what do you mean by Director Daddy? Does your mother know another man?" The questions came in rapid fire, cameras flashing relentlessly. "Enough." Anna's voice trembled. "I called you here to clear my name, not to interrogate my son." She had intended to use Luca to paint herself as the victimized single mother. But what she failed to consider was, Luca was just a child. A child too young to keep secrets. Anna quickly turned her fury toward me, her tone filled with accusation. "George, I thought you were someone I could rely on. But I never imagined you'd be this petty and insecure. After all these years, you're really accusing me of lingering feelings for Henry just because of some normal interactions?" She clung to Luca in her words, because she knew Luca was my weakness. But this time, I simply let out a cold scoff. Then, I gestured to my assistant, who promptly pulled out the paternity test results and displayed them for everyone to see. "Why don't you explain to everyone how the child you gave birth to ended up being someone else's?" No amount of words could refute cold, hard evidence. Anna froze, her expression shifting from shock to sheer panic. When did you do a paternity test?" She stammered, her voice losing its edge. But that wasn't even the point anymore. The report clearly stated, Luca and I shared no biological relation. That alone said everything. I stared at her, my voice calm and cutting. "Anna, I gave you a chance. You were the one who threw it away." At first, I had planned to let things go. To at least spare her some dignity. But she was the one who dug her own grave, dragging the media into this mess herself. Now, her real nightmare was only just beginning. This was a live broadcast. There was no way to take it back. Anna's face was deathly pale, her entire body trembling. She had no ground left to question the legitimacy of the test results. She had tried to use the media and the weight of public opinion to turn this into her trial against me, only to find herself the one being judged. Her parents didn't dare meet my eyes. They must have known the truth about their daughter all along. Anna shuffled forward on unsteady legs, then suddenly collapsed to her knees in front of me. "George, it's not what you think. Please, let me explain, I didn't know about the child." She crawled closer, her voice shaking, desperation written all over her face. "Did your clothes take themselves off? Did your legs spread on their own?" I swept my arm across the table, sending my coffee cup crashing to the floor. Scalding liquid splattered onto Anna. She let out a sharp scream but didn't dare show a hint of anger. It was Henry. He forced me. I didn't do it willingly." The moment the words left her lips, the shop's doorbell chimed. A low, mocking voice followed. "Anna, have you no shame? I forced you. Do you even remember what you were like in bed?" No one in the room had expected this. No one had anticipated that I would invite Henry here in advance. Anna was stunned. She would have never imagined that I'd deliberately tip Henry off about today, just to enjoy this very moment. "You're lying," she shrieked, her composure unraveling. "The only man I love is George. It's you. You were the one who deliberately came between us." Exposed, she abandoned all pretense and launched into a full-blown argument with Henry. Her parents, mortified beyond words, seized the chaos as an opportunity to slip away with Luca. But the exit was completely blocked. There was no escape. "Anna, you were the one who came running to me when I got back. You told me you were already pregnant with my child. What, did you really think I would have cared otherwise?" Henry jabbed a finger at her, his voice dripping with contempt. If not for Luca being here, and the presence of so many reporters, he probably would have started cursing outright. But it didn't matter. My goal had already been achieved. Whether Anna signed the divorce papers or not was irrelevant. Her adultery was a fact, and this marriage was over. A few days later, the divorce proceedings went through without a hitch. My victory was a foregone conclusion. The DNA test confirmed what I had already suspected, Luca was Henry's son. And since Anna had committed adultery, she walked away with nothing. Not a single cent. As for Luca's custody, that was for his biological parents to figure out. It wasn't long before the scandal exploded across the media. Anna's reputation was utterly destroyed. Without my support, her dreams of being a leading actress were dead in the water. And now, with this affair exposed, the entertainment industry blacklisted her entirely. There was no coming back from this. Henry didn't escape unscathed either. His film's box office earnings plummeted. The scandal itself might not have had much to do with him directly, but as a disgraced director who got caught up with a tainted actress, his career was as good as over. Even after the divorce, I wasn't left with nothing. But that didn't mean there weren't lingering regrets. Sometimes, stepping out of a lie didn't make life any less painful. After some time, I finally wrapped up all the loose ends at work. For once, I had a rare moment of peace. Surprisingly, the divorce hadn't affected me negatively. If anything, the way I had publicly exposed Anna and Henry at the cafe had become a hot topic online. People ate the story up. Some production companies even approached me, wanting to turn the whole scandal into a movie. I turned them down. No matter what Anna had done, Luca was still just a child. For the sake of whatever bond we once had as father and son, I didn't want to drag him through any more public scrutiny. On the day we finalized the divorce, Anna arrived alone. She wore a long black trench coat, her face hidden behind a tightly secured mask. She didn't want to be recognized. But I could see it clearly, she looked far more haggard than before. At the processing counter, Anna removed her sunglasses, revealing a dark bruise at the corner of her eye. Half of her face was swollen. "George, my parents have cut ties with me. They took Luca back to our hometown. I really have nothing left now." She sobbed pitifully, looking so fragile that even the court staff glanced at her with sympathy. "What happened to your face?" I asked, my tone indifferent. Anna clung to my arm as if it were her last lifeline. "It was Henry. I told him to take responsibility for Luca, but he called me a whore and beat me up." Her already swollen eyes welled up with fresh tears. From her shaky recount, I learned that Henry had disappeared days ago. He'd taken the first flight out of the country, blocked her on every platform, and left her to deal with the fallout alone. "Is that so?" "How heartless of him," I said, pulling a tissue from my pocket and handing it to her. The gesture looked considerate, but inside, I felt nothing. "George, please don't divorce me," she pleaded, voice breaking. "You were right about Henry. You're the one who truly loved me, and I was too blind to see it. I regret everything. I should have realized sooner." She cried louder, her body shaking with emotion. And yet, somehow, her makeup remained perfectly intact. I chuckled lightly, then slipped the freshly processed divorce certificate into her hands. Rising from my seat, I looked down at her and said, "Is that so? Well, keep regretting. I have things to do. Bye." Before she could respond, I turned on my heel and strode out of the courthouse. This wasn't the time for regret. This was the time for Anna to pay for what she had done. All these tears, all these words, weren't they just a ploy for money? With her staggering breach of contract penalties and an industry-wide ban, Anna had a long road of suffering ahead of her. I thought Anna would finally disappear from my life. But I had clearly underestimated the depths of her shamelessness. Clinging to the belief that even bad publicity was still publicity, Anna launched a live stream. And she wasn't alone, she brought Luca into it, painting herself as the ultimate victim. "George, our son needs his father. Please, for the sake of the child, come back and see us." So now she wanted to play the emotional card? She had her chance. More than once, in fact. But Anna had single-handedly burned every bridge she could have used to escape this mess. If she had even a shred of dignity left back then, if she had handled things quietly instead of dragging the media into it, her affair wouldn't have become a public spectacle. We could have settled everything in private. But she was the one who chose to turn this into a battlefield for the whole world to see. And now that her grand plan had backfired, she wanted to win back sympathy. Did she really think people were that gullible? Unfortunately, some were. Overnight, her hashtag went viral. One side of the internet condemned her, saying she deserved everything for cheating on me for years and lying about Luca's paternity. The other side took her bait, arguing that, regardless of her mistakes, she had still carried and given birth to Luca, maybe she truly hadn't known he wasn't mine. Public opinion was a powerful weapon. And Anna knew exactly how to wield it. She didn't bother defending herself. Instead, she used Luca to tug at people's heartstrings. She released old photos and videos of us together, moments from past events where we had appeared as a happy family. Trying to stir up some long-buried emotions in me, was she? She still had a few die-hard fans. They boosted her posts, helping to spread her fabricated narrative. What was next? Would she show up at my doorstep with Luca, fall to her knees, and beg for forgiveness? I wouldn't put it past her. So, instead of letting her control the narrative, I decided to take an unconventional approach to respond in my own way. The next day, the announcement of my participation in a dating reality show completely overshadowed all of Anna's carefully orchestrated efforts. A man, fresh from a painful divorce, stepping into a romance show within just half a month. Was he ready to start a new relationship? The internet exploded with speculation. No one cared about Anna's sob story anymore. Soon, the show officially aired. If it had been anyone else, they would have been crucified online for jumping into a new romance so soon after a divorce. But I was different. I was the ultimate victim in this scandal. Public sentiment was overwhelmingly on my side. Healing through love was seen as nothing but natural. I knew that as long as I remained single, Anna would keep trying to manipulate public opinion, looking for any angle to drag me back into her mess. But the moment I announced a new relationship, any more of her stunts would make her look like nothing more than a jealous ex, or worse, a homewrecker. Within days of the show airing, I was successfully paired with Selena, one of the female contestants. She was a few years younger than Anna. Though still a rising actress, her talent and reputation were miles ahead of Anna's. Most importantly, she had been a fan of mine for years. During our conversations, I found out she had only signed up for the show after hearing I would be on it. By the time filming wrapped up, our relationship had become official. To fully cut ties with Anna, I hired a moving company and relocated to a new home. Selena and I moved in together, openly embracing our new relationship. I made no effort to hide it from the public. Within days, every single one of Anna's desperate attempts to seek forgiveness had been wiped from the internet. Her presence online was completely erased. Banned from the industry, blocked from social media. She had finally been silenced for good. Half a year flew by in the blink of an eye. Selena and I officially tied the knot, and her belly gradually rounded with pregnancy. During a routine checkup, we discovered she was carrying twins. Happiness found me again, so suddenly, it almost caught me off guard. Unlike before, this time, I could be absolutely certain the children were mine. With my career thriving, my marriage flourishing, and my children entering the world, the unpleasant memories of the past began to fade. Life moved forward, day by day. I thought I had left Anna behind for good. But she refused to disappear. Somehow, she had gotten hold of both Selena's and my contact information. Then, she sent me a video. In the dim footage, she was curled up on a tattered bed, her body covered in bruises. "George, do you have any idea how much I've suffered? I know I was wrong. I don't expect your forgiveness, I just want to apologize to you in person one last time. Please." I called her back without hesitation. On the other end, Anna sobbed uncontrollably as she recounted her misfortunes. After being blacklisted from the industry, she had sunk the last of her money into an investment, only to be scammed out of everything by another man. Her parents had severed ties with her, sold their home, and moved away. She had even paid someone to track down my phone number. Forget the apology. I don't care anymore, I replied indifferently, my eyes drifting toward Selena. George, I've contracted multiple diseases. I won't live much longer. Please, just grant me this final wish. I'm begging you. For a brief moment, something stirred in me. Anna's downfall had been nothing short of catastrophic. Perhaps she had suffered enough. I sighed and agreed to meet her. Beside me, Selena looked visibly surprised. George, are you really going to see her? I nodded. Given how miserable Anna's life had become, it didn't feel right to refuse. After all, she was my ex-wife. A strange heat crept up my face, and I found it hard to meet Selena's gaze. Selena's voice carried a hint of frustration, though she didn't fully let it show. Selena, you know how bad things are for her right now, I said, watching her carefully. Then, with a smirk, I added, if we don't go enjoy the show now, we might miss our chance once she's dead. Selena blinked, momentarily stunned. The bottle of lotion in her hand nearly slipped from her grasp. After a brief pause, she replied, fine. Let me do my makeup and curl my hair. We'll go together. Great. Wear that black slip dress, the one that shows off your figure. I grinned.